but in the process, this is what we're doing today. So, for the next 3 or 4 videos here, depending on how in-depth we want to go with this, our How-To Wednesdays are, again, going to be very informational Wednesdays instead of how-tos. But, basically what we're going to do is we are going to cover the progression of clothing throughout the day and why it is or isn't appropriate to be worn out in public. So it's going to be probably a series of 10 to 15, possibly 20-minute videos, depending on which versions of this I want to do. And we are going to be covering this in terms of basically middle class. That is what most of my clothing is for, other than what I am wearing today. I am very much a farmer's wife today, rather than my typical flounces. So yeah, that's what we're going to be covering today, and I'm going to go upstairs with my Budamus coffee, and we're going to get started. Alright, we are upstairs now. It has been a good while since we've been up here, since we've been up here. Let me just repeat myself a few times here. And like I said before, what we are going to be doing is talking about the progression of clothing throughout the day and what is and what isn't appropriate to be outside in. Outside being in public. I am going to specify that because what you see me in now, I will wear outside, just not in the public sphere. That is a very important distinction because that's likely what women did then as well. Especially when we wear what I am wearing now, which is called a wrapper. This is basically your house coat, what you throw on early in the morning or after you've put your pajamas on at night, just to kind of cover up and not, sometimes it's to be warm, sometimes it's just to be modest and covered. Kind of depends on who you are. Sometimes it's just a habit, and this is what you were taught to do, so this is what you do. We will wear this outside, especially in camp, because for our unit especially, with the women in said unit, we put these on partially as work dresses. They're really lightweight. It's something that can get dirty really easily, and it's going to get washed repeatedly. Whereas the dresses that we tend to wear, because we all kind of represent that middle to upper middle class, you don't really want to wash those. You're going to hang them out on the line, leave them there to air, and then put them away. You're not really washing them all that often because you want to keep the coloring of your material intact. That's also basically what they would have done then, and we tend to try and stay as accurate as we can, even when it turns into home life, because obviously it leaks into normal life as well, once you start doing things like this. But why I am making this such an important distinction and why we are starting with this garment first for the progression of throughout the day wear, this is something that in today's life you would probably see people wearing if they could. Hello, sweet girl. Basically, what are we doing? You're not being helpful. You're being actually very distracting. But these people should see you too. Say hello, Miss Scarlett. Oh, good girl. A lot of people, especially today, they'll run to the store in their pajamas and not care in the least what people think about them. In the 19th century, however, a lot of people really, really care. Your clothing is telling people who you are, what status you are, how much money you make in the year, things like that. So this isn't something you're going to be wearing out in public. That's not to say that some people couldn't wear them out in public. Um, some wrappers, if you look them up online, are super embellished. They'll have embroidery all the way down the front, around the cuffs. You'll have a collar even. Um, and then there are ones like mine, where it's super simple. It's basically a work dress pattern, just opens all the way up the front. Um, Now, under this, especially in the mornings, I would have some petticoats under it, so I could go out and do some chores real quick since we are on a farm here. Um, but that's about it. I would wear it early in the morning, maybe eat breakfast in it, and then I'd go and change clothes into my day wear. A lot of times, rather than a wrapper, these will be called a morning dress, as in time of day, not the grieving process. Um, But yeah, this isn't something that you would be seen out in public in necessarily. Um, I just lost my train of thought. But yeah, that's basically the general gist of our first video here. Under this, I could have the all of my undergarments on so that all I have to do when I do get changed into my normal clothes, is put them on and go out the door and do what I need to in town. Um, or it could just be my nightgown. Nightgowns, nightwear. You do have specific patterns for those things. Again, they're not going to be seen out in public, and there aren't many left, especially in museums and such, because they got worn constantly, every day even. So they got worn down, and eventually you just throw it away because it's so threadbare. So there aren't really any surviving articles of clothing when it comes to nightwear. What can be used as nightwear, other than just nightgowns, though, is your shift and chemise. For gentlemen, it would probably be just your shirt, um, though there are a lot of cases where, especially with the patterns that we have today for men's shirts, they're a little bit too short. Some of us have realized that and make them much longer. Um, but same concept still applies. It's that first base layer, you can wear that to bed and not worry about it. That's kind of a throwback when it comes to the 19th century to the centuries prior to that, because your first layer is definitely going to be your nightgown, nightshirt. Um, you're not going to really worry about it too much. None of this, though, is what you're wearing out in public. If you did, you would be very scandalous. You're likely to see somebody's ankles when you're wearing something such as a wrapper. Um, and you can tell that I am not yet wearing all of the garments that I am supposed to underneath. I don't have my corset on anymore. There's a lot of layers missing because the skirt itself is too close to my person. Um, so in a general sense, this isn't something that I would be wearing out in public. That being said, what we will cover next Wednesday is a day dress. We'll probably actually go over two of them. One will be a work dress and one will be a hooped dress, um, both of which will be appropriate to wear out in public, but what you put over that is where the do's and don'ts will come into that particular project of clothing. And with that, I will talk to you all next time, and I hope everyone has a good day. And yeah, see y'all later.